All right, man. Looks like it's working now. Welcome to Mintmap Spaces, everybody. Jason, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Perfect, man. Yeah, good to be here. We are a little late. I was 5 minutes late, and then we had some issues with the invitation, the co-host invitation for Jason. Seems like we are good now. Yeah, happy to be here again. It's Friday afternoon here. Weather is great. How was it in Arizona, man? Still so hot?
Yeah, man, still pretty warm out this way. It's actually been nice lately though. It's always sunny, but the last few days we've had a couple clouds in the sky, so it's been a nice reprieve from the perpetual beating from the sun that we normally get. But all in all, things are good, man.
That's great to hear because before we jump into our little birthday batch, let's talk a little bit about the market. I think we had a little, yeah, let's call it setback that might be caused by the interest rate cut that was actually expected somehow, but yeah, it was kind of kept the way it was. Yeah, what's your whole opinion on that?
Honestly, I didn't follow it that closely. I was working on artwork all week, so I have basically stayed away from the news. And to be honest with you, it's been pretty nice. I saw there was a pullback, so I grabbed a couple bucks and threw some more money at Bitcoin. But aside from that, I'm gonna have to hear your take, man. Tell me what's happening.
Uh, that's actually like the news have been, especially if you follow Watcher Guru, that the whole world was expecting the USA to cut the rates. Didn't happen, and like as if, yeah, as a result, markets went down again. I think last time we were on Spaces, oh no, it was on the podcast. We were able to say that Bitcoin reached 70K again,
Hmm.
and I think we went down to 63 or 62 even. I'm not even sure. Um, but yeah, it caused panic again. I read a lot of stuff on X, and people like they were like writing the craziest stuff, like, okay, this is it, blah blah blah, the same thing we always have when we go down for like 10%. um but it's crazy, man. I don't know, like the news actually have not changed yet. I think last time we spoke we even mentioned that the United States were actually kind of transferring a pretty big amount of Bitcoin, but seems like nothing happened in that case. Like everything has been the same actually, besides like the rate cut that was expected, but people still panic. So we could like speak over and over again about market psychology, but yeah, I think people who want to listen to that kind of stuff can definitely listen to some podcast episodes because we have gone through that many times. But yeah, what can we say? I mean, people react the same way they always react, and we can just try to, like, in case you are some kind of like you're holding a crypto, you can actually take advantage of that. We have very volatile markets. Take advantage of that when Jason explained it many times that when markets climb up, they always have to go down again, and it's always a good thing to maybe sell a portion of your cryptos then and buy back again lower. Have you done that this time?
No, not this time. I think we're on the verge of the banana zone. And so I don't think now is a good time to be dancing in and out of the markets personally. So none of that for me this time. I'm just sitting back. I think I think it was Plan B. Do you know who Plan B is before I jump into the Plan B spiel?
Feel free to explain, man.
Yeah. So Plan B is this dude. He's a financial analyst, I believe, in Europe, but he basically does all these prognostications around Bitcoin and where Bitcoin's going. And so, I mean, I think he's been fairly accurate in terms of some of his predictions, and so I feel like listening to people who've actually watched markets pretty closely for a lifetime is a good thing. He's projecting a Bitcoin double in the next 3 to 5 months, which I don't really think that's all that, earth shattering, to be quite honest with you, because if the cycle holds, that's basically what would happen. And so, from my perspective, I'm not really interested in trading right now because, in the same way that Bitcoin dropped, whatever it was, 10% over the last week, it was up the same amount the previous week, and you definitely don't want to play those markets wrong, right? So for me, I think the smartest thing to do is just accumulate on the dips right now, and then as we enter the banana zone, just start holding and accumulate as much as you can so that when you feel like that banana zone goes exponential, you might want to take some off the top end. And that's what my plan is. So, as I've said before, I've leveraged some real world assets to buy Bitcoin. So I'm not going to sell my Bitcoin or my Solana at this point to do any dancing in out of the market games. I'm just waiting for the banana zone. So for right now, it's hold and watch and then see if the cycle plays out. Because if the cycle plays out, everything's going to be amazing. And I'm looking forward to that day. So that is my current strategy and my current outlook. And in terms of what the Fed does, I think the Fed is basically become this almost anchor around most of the traditional markets. And it's been interesting to see how the crypto market responds to some of the Fed decisions because traditionally that didn't necessarily happen. And it shows that the market's maturing and we're getting more people inside the marketplace who actually care about the broader market as a whole, which is an indication of maturity. So from my perspective, this is actually a good thing. It points to the fact that you had institutional money selling on this news because that's big enough money to move the market. We know that the BlackRocks, we know that the MicroStrategies, we know that the large ETFs are not selling. So some big players in probably sitting behind a computer screen on Wall Street somewhere or in one of the financial districts in Europe decided they were going to take some money off the table when this news came out. But I think ultimately the way the election cycles normally play out is the Fed wants money to be as easy to get. They want people to feel like the economy is really good. They want basically a positive sentiment going into an election because it favors the incumbent. In this case, the incumbent has withdrawn from the race, and we've got basically a secondary player in there. So who knows what they'll do this time? Maybe they will keep their stance, but I highly expect them to cut rates at some point before the election just to gin up the excitement, and we'll see what happens then. As if they do that, and then we go into the election, and then the election has favorable results, I think you're going to see some of the banana zone begin before then, maybe around end of August, 1st of September. And then as we go into October, November, you're probably going to see some crazy things happening. So, yeah, I'm just holding, buying dips, and waiting.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned the rate cuts and everything because I read that, especially former President Trump, does not really want them to be cut yet, as he doesn't really want like the economy to like get back to like good conditions again before he has a chance to get elected. And yeah, let's see what happens. What's interesting is that the if you just follow the news, you definitely realize that there are actually no bad news. Markets keep on reacting to stuff like, Germany is selling Bitcoin or rate cuts and everything, but the tech is still the same and the adoption is still ongoing. And you actually have so many good news every day. Like, when I open Watcher Guru here, you see like El Salvador proposes using cryptocurrency for trade settlements with Russia. I'm not sure if that's actually a good thing, but in terms of like crypto usage, it's definitely good. Then we have yeah, what else do we have? What did President Trump just say? I actually just got 12 minutes ago. Donald Trump says maybe we'll pay off our 35 trillion debt by handing them a little crypto check, handing them a little Bitcoin. Yeah, I mean, let's see. I just mentioned the Bitcoin holdings of the United States, and They seem to have transferred quite a bit, but haven't really done anything with it. Oh, we got Michael Saylor's MicroStrategy to raise 2 billion to purchase more. So just as I mentioned, the news are still good. Everything is good. Markets keep reacting to the like to bad news, but like these bad news are actually not sustainable. What Germany can sell, they will have sold out at some point. And yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like market's moving crazy these times, and I feel like it can go up to 80 quicker than we think. I mean, you just mentioned that. How was the guy called? Plan B. That he's expecting it to double within like a couple months. So yeah, I think selling is probably not a good thing as well. Um, would you still like keep adding now at these levels?
Yeah, definitely. If I mean, listen, like if you're looking at traditional markets, whether it's stocks or bonds or whatever, even real estate to some extent, um, where are you going to find a better return? As so long as you have a quality asset, or a quality underlying token in this case, and we're talking about crypto, right? Like if you are, if you're, especially if you're younger right now, like if you're just starting your investing career, I mean, are you going to put money in the stock market and hope for 8% a year on average? Or are you going to put money in, crypto or some meme coin and get 8% tomorrow? I mean, the choice is really it's really a false choice, right? There is no choice. Like if you're in a market where there's no volatility, you can't make gains. Or if you do make gains, they're going to be very, very slight. So it doesn't really make any sense to play in traditional markets unless you're, one of these people who's aging out of the world. They're up in their 70s, 80s, they're retired. They just want to have enough money to survive for the rest of their lives, whatever that looks like for them. They want something steady with no volatility. But for the rest of us, the people who are still building and growing, we need the volatility because that's where the money is made. So every time there's a drop in something like Bitcoin, which, you know, all signs are telling us that it's going much, much higher, only someone who's not paying attention wouldn't buy a little bit, right? So I bought a little bit. I'll keep buying a little bit on every dip. And I'm not worried at all at these levels. Because remember, we got to these levels with less than 1% of adoption, in any market anywhere in the world. So now we've just started getting to that place where some holders are into the asset at 1%. Like if you're BlackRock or if you're looking at the ETFs and specifically focusing on Bitcoin because there's a fixed supply, Solana has an inflation rate, so Solana continues to be created. So it's not really the same thing per se. But if I just look at fixed supply assets like Bitcoin, where there's 21 million, 210,000 puts you at the 1% mark, right? So BlackRock is sitting there, MicroStrategy is sitting there. So we have some major players who are hitting that 1% holder mark, but we don't have 1% adoption still in the average population. Like if I go poll 100 people right now in my little community here in Arizona, none of them are going to own any Bitcoin, or if they do, it's just sitting dead on a wallet. They've never used it, traded it, don't know anything about it. It's just a friend told them to buy it 10 years ago and they have a little bit. And so until the adoption curve starts to creep up and we start to see more and more activity on chain, where it's Solana or Bitcoin or Ethereum or any of the majors, you know, none of that activity has really happened yet. So again, we're so early. I can't stress this enough. We're so early in all this that only a foolish person would be shaken out of the market at this point. So, the only job that you have right now is to stay in the market, and that means stay solvent, buy quality assets, buy quality NFTs, by organizations and founders who are actually building businesses, who understand the fact that it's a long game, not a tomorrow game, and you're going to be fine. But if you start getting stuck in the emotionalism of this whole thing, where it cycles up and cycles down and cycles up and cycles down, and you're risking money that you need to pay your rent or pay your mortgage or buy groceries for your family, that's a bad situation. Don't do that. But if you have investable cash and you understand timelines, you have to buy. There's just no better place to put your money right now, in my ever so uneducated and humble opinion.
But you just mentioned like BlackRock, and we got like Michael Saylor. We got so many states who invested in Bitcoin. Do you feel like that's a good thing in the end, like having so many major players owning so many Bitcoins?
Yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely a great thing. I mean, think about it, right? If you're, like I'm Gen X, right? So like if you're Gen X or younger, you probably have an affinity toward holding your own keys, you know, and you don't really mind dealing with some of the tech because you grew up with tech. In my case, I had the best of both worlds. I was pre-tech, development of tech, and now post-tech. So in my generation, we still have the ability to communicate on some level and deal with technology. A lot of the younger people don't want to deal with people. They're not good at it. They don't have social skills. And so do they really want to go to a bank and set up an account? No. Do they want to go to, some place where they have to interact with people who are going to custody their stuff? No, not really. That's not their thing. They want to do it, they want to hold it, they understand it, they're not afraid of it, right? But the challenge is that it's the older people who hold all the wealth, not the younger people. And right now, the way the demographics are shaping up, you've got the baby boom generation retiring at 10,000 people a day for basically the next 5 or 6 years. 10,000 people a day are going to be hitting retirement age. Okay. A lot of these people have businesses, a lot of these people have second homes, and all of that shit's going to get dumped, in some way, shape, or form because they don't need the extra house or their kid doesn't want the business or whatever the thing is. And so what we're seeing right now is going to be a massive transfer of wealth from the oldest generation that is the wealthiest to assets and younger people. And so if you are an older person, you're not interested in custodying your own Bitcoin or Solana or ETH, or you're not interested in purchasing real world asset tokens like NFTs. You're not interested in any of that. You want someone else to do it for you. So if BlackRock can give you a product or a service that does it for you, then you're more apt to use that service. And that secures that makes the network more secure because now you have this massive company or corporation that has a vested interest in seeing that asset perform. Okay. And then you have government interest in making sure that the largest companies are supported. So then you have border protection. And so you start creating these moats around the asset that protect it and protect it and protect it. Right. And that's what older people are looking for. They don't want to deal with it. They want someone else to worry about it, protect it. They want to make sure the counterparty risk is minimized, but they're not interested in self-custody. They want a big company to do that and give them some sort of insurance that at the end of the day, their assets aren't going anywhere. Younger people, totally different thing. So I think as more and more people go into the place of understanding that, hey, I need to hold at least some crypto, having these large companies willing to custody is a good thing because the education level of most people is when you grow up, you go to school, you get a safe, secure job. This was the whole spiel for like my generation and then the millennials, not so much for generations after that. But at the end of the day, if you're working a job and you got a family, you're not necessarily interested in, worrying about whether or not your phone's going to get stolen or you've bought 15 different devices to secure your keys. You want someone else to do that for you. And this is just one way of ensuring that that happens. So as far as, creating more security, I think it's a great thing. I don't necessarily think it centralizes the tokens more. So, I mean, that's kind of my take on it. That's just like I was listening to a couple people talk about this past week, and my opinion on this has shifted a little bit. So I think it is a net positive, I guess would be my final answer. What are your thoughts on that?
I actually I appreciate the point of view you just gave. Like I definitely didn't think about it that way, but I like in my honest opinion, on the first thought I had was kind of like it does centralize it in some shape of way because it's the nature of the thing. If like not too many people own too much, it feels like they have control over it and. what you just said is definitely an explanation for investment companies, indeed. But if you take a look at, if you have states, okay, if a country actually owns Bitcoin, that should be fine as well, as long as they keep it as some kind of reserve. But then let's just take MicroStrategy for example. Like, what's your opinion on that? If these guys have so many Bitcoins, and do you feel like his company is getting too strong?
When you say getting too strong, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, like, in terms of, let's imagine Bitcoin goes to, I don't know, 300K. How many Bitcoins does he own right now? Do you have a number?
I think they have 220 or 30,000. I can't remember. I'll have to look it up. Let's see. MicroStrategy, Bitcoin holdings. Yeah, 226.5 is what's being reported, and at an average token cost of 36,800.
How much was the average?
$36,800.
Okay, so they are definitely in profit. But so let's see, 200,000 times 300,000 would equal like 60. Oh man, I have to do calculation. 60 billion, right? 60 billion, right? Isn't that right, man?
It's a lot, man. It's a lot. It's a big number, right?
Like, whatever. But as we all know, he keeps accumulating, and um, 200,000. I'm not sure if he ever manages to get like 500,000 or something. Maybe not at these prices, but that would actually be a pretty big share of all the Bitcoins out there, especially if you consider that there are so many gone forever. So I'm not sure if there is a number out there that actually tells us how many are left. Is it like, I think like 4 million are lost, or 3 million? I don't know. Um, but like almost owning like, oh man, have to calculate again. What's if you actually hold 500,000 bitcoins? What's like the percentage of all the bitcoins out there? Do the math for me.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I would just put it at round numbers, right? Like if they're holding 220, roughly say 220,000 Bitcoin, if Bitcoin hits 100,000, which it should before the end of the year, I mean that's $22 billion right there. So you can multiply that out.
Yeah,
$22 billion,
exactly.
yeah, which is 5x from where they're at right now, and they're already at a 2x on their initial investment.
Right now, yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, you have to realize.
that's true. And yeah,
Go ahead, sorry.
I just wanted to say, if you add up, like if you add at what they own, and then you have all these other big players, and then you have like a couple of companies probably owning like, I don't know, 5 to 10% of the whole supply, that feels wrong to me.
Okay, so let's think about this for just a hot second, right? I'm going to give you a old school opinion on this whole numbers game that we're playing with Bitcoin. Okay, so everyone talks about crypto, Bitcoin specifically being number go up technology. Like if you bought Solana at 8, like I was lucky enough to pick up some Solana at 8, then for me it's been number go up technology. I basically made a year's salary over the course of the last few months, or since I bought Solana at 8, which I guess was a year ago, but I didn't have to work for that, right? So it's just number go up technology. Thanks for playing. But at the end of the day, like what has actually happened? What has actually happened is the purchasing power of fiat money has gone down. Okay, so if I look at something like, everybody likes to call gold the a rock, like a dead rock, an ancient relic. But there's this story where if you look throughout history, if you have 1 ounce of gold and you go into a fine tailor's office or a fine tailor shop, that you can buy a very nice full suit of clothes for a man for 1 ounce of gold. And this has been true from the beginning of time. So right now, if I take one of my gold coins and I go into a tailor, I can get a full suit, three-piece suit, hat and shoes, everything custom made for me for about 2 grand. And that's about what a gold coin is worth right now. And this has been true forever. Okay, but in my dad's age, it would have been, $300 when he was a kid, you know. And that's just because of the money printing games. So if we price everything in fiat, which is not necessarily the best strategy, the numbers go up and they get bigger and bigger and bigger because we keep creating more of them, but the actual purchasing power has gone down. So yeah, $22 billion sounds like a fuck ton of money, and it is, but what is the purchasing power that it holds relative to fiat dollars in the past? You know, about a tenth, maybe 5% of what it would have been 40 years ago. So, I mean, when we're looking at these big numbers, we also have to contextualize the fact that while the number is massive, the purchasing power has gone down. So all Bitcoin is doing, or Solana, or real estate, or any of these assets that are somewhat inflation protected are doing is making sure that no matter where the value of fiat money goes, that your purchasing power is remained intact.
Yeah, I totally get that point because that's actually a thing that has been like this forever. Like people investing in real estates or buying like gold, silver, and everything like that, stuff that is supposed to be limited compared to fiat. And one little side story that is actually pretty interesting about that is I actually just talked to a guy a couple of days ago who has been some kind of tax advisor, but he has been like a partner in his company, and he's selling his shares now as he is old and retirement and everything, and he's getting like 3 million euros actually, and he was actually talking to his financial advisor, and he gave him the advice that he should actually like put the money on the bank where he's going to get like an APR of 3%. And when I actually told him about, like, he was actually like calculating, hey, 3%, it's like 90K a year, and it's pretty safe money, blah blah blah. And when I actually tried to tell him that he's going to be break even with the inflation, then um, like I feel like there are so many people out there who are not really realizing that they lose money every year if they just keep it on their bank. And I'm not sure if the general education in the United States is better, or if there are more people realizing that. But I feel like especially like the older generation that you just talked about, is kind of still stuck in like the kind of investment they've been doing all the time. Stocks is already like relatively risky for them, and yeah, where do you see like what? How do you see these guys will actually be able to like? You just said that these guys usually want their money to be handled by big companies. They do not want to have like their own wallets and everything. But do you feel like there will be some turning point in the future with the upcoming market activity that we all expect, that these kind of people will be more open towards crypto?
I don't think they're going to have a choice ultimately. I mean, the truth is, if you measure inflation, like it's not a single number. And so it's very difficult to say, okay, well, and the inflation rate is 3%, or in the US, the Federal Reserve target inflation rate is 2%. Well, that doesn't make any sense because when I go to the grocery store, food is up 30 to 40%. Fuel is up 30 to 40%. Housing has gone up tremendously. Interest rates have gone up more than double. So it's when you say inflation rate, it's really a it's more of a direction than a number, and the vector direction that we're going in is up, and it's way more than 3% for most people. So if you're a retiree, someone who is exiting the workspace and you have a bit of a nest egg, the question becomes, how risky or how much risk do you want to take with that money, most of those people are not going to be taking on any risk because they feel like they're done. And as long as it doesn't hurt, in other words, as long as they can maintain their lifestyle for as long as they feel like they need to, they're not going to change, looking at traditional markets. But they might take a percentage of that and put it to work with something that's a little more risky, assuming that they understand that their lifestyle is not going to be impacted. So it really just comes down to how they perceive their lifestyle being impacted by the choices that they make. And for for most financial advisors, what I'm seeing nowadays is, or at least the ones that I've spoken to, is they're still averse. There's still this massive risk aversion toward any form of crypto at all. And until that changes, you won't see people who use financial advisors going into many of these products in a heavy way. They might take a small percentage of their portfolio. They might, put a little bit in there, but they're not going to risk a massive amount. And that's okay because even if, the people who have, like the baby boomers, the people who are retiring now at 10,000 per day, even if you collect 1% of their investable assets, that's still going to drive up the crypto market. Bitcoin, probably most specifically, because it's the oldest and it's the most reliable so far. But other assets will follow suit when they see that they can make good gains and the markets are trustable in terms of what they produce. So it's just an incentive game, really. And I don't see the incentives changing for financial advisors because there's not a lot of products for them to sell in the crypto space yet. There's 10 or 15 ETFs, and that's about it. And the people that they work for probably don't get a commission on those. So until there are more products and more options, and there's investment houses or family business houses that are custodying Bitcoin and they're taking a return on those management fees, you probably won't see much incentive to push it. But as more and more large companies onboard it and more Gen X, millennials, and so forth enter into their productive years and start investing, which is what's happening right now, I think that's when you really see a huge upswing in the adoption rate because these people are not afraid to transact in Bitcoin. As a matter of fact, when we just finished a remodel on one of our rentals and we rented it to two girls who, um, didn't want, they're actually from the same complex and they didn't want to leave. So they literally just moved from one side of the complex to the other. And so we bumped rent 40%. So we had a 40% bump in rent thanks to the reno. And when we sat down with them and talked about the lease agreement, we told them that we would accept Bitcoin, a cashier's check, or Zelle, which is like an electronic funds transfer system. And so, like with us saying that to them, we opened their eyes to the possibility that Bitcoin is something they can transact in, and so they might be more open to transacting in it because they heard that we would transact into it. And the network effect is real. So like the more people that you see who are willing to transact or use a thing, that makes it more valuable to you because now you have more options. So that's what I see happening, like slow adoption in terms of transactions. It's happening in metro areas and city areas, and it's only going to continue to expand. So as it does, I would look for adoption to follow suit and investment to follow suit with that particular adoption. I don't know, what are you seeing on your end? What's happening in Germany in terms of people using crypto to interact with one another?
It's funny that you ask because what I just wanted to know is how these people reacted when you said that because I have the like experience that whenever I say something like that, like like hey, you can actually like pay in Bitcoin, people most of the times think that it's a joke, they act um like they think like hey, is Bitcoin like still a thing? They feel like it was like a thing back in 2021 when it was like all over the media, but nowadays they feel like I'm joking when I talk about it, like hey, do you still own that kind of stuff, these virtual digital internet coins? And that's funny. That's why I wanted to know what your guys actually how they reacted. Did they show any kind of reaction to your Bitcoin um offer?
There was no negative reaction. I mean, I think they just saw it as another option, but they also don't hold any, and so they probably don't know that much about it. And what we're finding is that's the case. We find, like my wife helps out at a local coffee shop. She was with Starbucks for like 20 years, and she managed different regions of Canada, different regions of the U.S. for Starbucks. Spent time with Howard Schultz, the founder, and visited coffee farms with him and all this kind of stuff. And all they hire is, like college age kids, high school kids at this coffee shop. And so she consults with this coffee shop. And so when she's in there, she's talking to them about NFTs. She's talking to them about our project. She's talking to them about, transacting in crypto, or at least asking that question. And more of them have or hold crypto than you might think, but they're not transacting in it or using it for anything other than just yeah, I bought some, or yeah, I bought an NFT. It's almost just like a rite of passage, but not something that they're really interested in. And when you asked earlier about money and like what the system's like here in the States, people here in the States are not taught about money on any level in school. Um, and so when you start learning about money and you start learning about leveraging and investing, that generally comes after you leave the government schools, typically the public schools, and you go into the real world and you decide what you want to do. Like if you want to be in real estate, you've got to learn how money works. You've got to learn how to borrow money. You've got to learn about debt. If you want to build a business, same thing. You've got to learn how to manage your profit and loss statement. You've got to learn how to create your cash flow. And all these different things go into it. And in school, basically, you're taught. I mean, I don't even think they teach you how to balance a checkbook anymore. Not that anyone has a checkbook or reconcile an account. It's just not something that people were exposed to. And when you come out of that, not understanding that there are other ways to make money other than working for someone, then most people choose the route of working for someone, which is the most difficult way to get wealthy because you pay the most taxes and you have no control over how much you make unless you're in a commissioned position. So the entrepreneur side, the investment side, all that stuff is learned more or less separately on your own, reading books, going to seminars. And I see a lot of these young kids haven't gotten to that place yet. They're just into crypto because one of their friends, kind of turned them onto it or something like that.
Yeah, that's actually what I see as well. But talking about the older generation, I feel like, when I talk to people, I always have that kind of need in myself that I feel like, I need to educate people and tell them you should hold crypto. It's good for you, that kind of stuff. But when I talk to older people, I feel like, as you just mentioned, as long as they manage to maintain their, living standard, like they can keep living the way they did before their retirement. I feel like they are like satisfied with their lives, like they say stuff like, I can go on vacation, I can like buy whatever I want, I can get the food I want, I have everything I want. Why would I actually consider like looking for different investment possibilities, And that's like probably a good thing, like people in that at that age probably realize that, when they are like 70, 80, something like that, they realize life is not eternal, and it's not just about the money in the end. And you should probably like just leave these people and let them live their lives. And yeah, in the end, not everybody's probably like made for crypto, and as long as people are happy, that's probably like the biggest goal you can have in your life, right?
Yeah, we have this conversation a lot actually in coaching circles, in mindset and personal development circles. I mean, all that really matters at the end of the day is how you feel about yourself when you're alone. And that's it. I mean, you can have all the shit in the world, all the money, all the cars, all the houses, but there's been study after study that comes out that shows that after you pass about the $60,000 a year, $70,000 a year mark, so long as you're good with your money, more money doesn't actually add to your happiness. And so when I think of happiness, I think of fulfillment. And when am I most fulfilled? Well, for me personally, when I'm most fulfilled, I am creating. and I am serving other people in some way, shape, or form, whether it's, creating artwork for our project, or whether it's coaching one of my clients, or whether it's, training someone in the gym, whatever it happens to be, that's when I'm happiest and most fulfilled. And so money is just a means to an end. It's like a rite of passage in terms of make sure that you create freedom and emancipate yourself. And that's really the role of money. You want to create an income stream that frees you from the daily so that you can live the life that you want to live. And if you think about how that works in the employment world, it's a more guaranteed path in terms of regular income, but it's a less guaranteed path in terms of freeing yourself from the rat race. So if you go into the job world, especially if you're not working for a government agency where they basically guarantee you all kinds of crazy benefits, you're going to work, 20, 25, 30 years to get to the place where you can walk away from what it is that you chose to do. Um, and that's only if you're good with money, and that's assuming that the government don't influence purchasing power away. So it's a pretty risky thing to do. Whereas if you go into the entrepreneurial world, there's a great risk there in terms of creation because most businesses and organizations will fail. In fact, 95% of them do within the first 5 years. I think 90% in the first year alone. But the difference is there you have control over your activity. So if I want to be in the world of sales, for example, my wife is a nutrition coach. If she wants to make more money, then she can go into the marketplace and attempt to make more sales, right? But if she was a nutrition coach working for a big company, she would just be on salary and she would get what she got, right? So there's a lot of misinformation around what money is, what it's used for, how you generate it. And again, this comes from that lack of education. And I'd highly recommend anyone interested in this topic just go back and read Robert Kiyosaki's book called Rich Dad Poor Dad. It like lays out all the basic, concepts that we're talking about here. But where I see crypto coming in is crypto and NFTs, especially the projects who are staying in the fight, building no matter what. These projects are opportunities that you would consider once in a lifetime opportunities. These are things that are never going to come again because A, the technology has already been created. B, there's an adoption curve that's going to take place and is taking place right now that you're never going to see again in your lifetime. And so it seems like pretty much every generation has one of these things where it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. It might have been, maybe, like my great grandparents, for example, like way back in the day, like maybe if they had a business or a farm or they had set aside some cash, maybe when the Great Depression hit, they could have bought property at a discount and then as the market corrected, become extremely wealthy. This is what a lot of people did in '08, in '09. We bought a couple properties at the end of the real estate crash in 2012, and we were able to buy a condo for like 47,000 bucks, which in Phoenix is extremely cheap, right? And today that property is worth over $200,000. But we were only able to do that because we saved up enough money and we waited for this event that crashed the market to go in and pick up these discounted assets. Crypto is a new market, so we're not having to wait for a crash or a disaster to participate. It's developing right now. It's its own crash and disaster based on like the look at the founders of a lot of NFT projects, meme coins, chains that are failing. This is going to continue to happen. It's its own sort of creative destruction in that it has never existed. So right now, people are figuring it out, and it's being adopted at a increasing rate, but still a very slow rate right now. The question you have to ask yourself is, do you want to participate before the adoption or after the adoption? And I think if you're young, you have to participate now because, again, it's a once in a lifetime creative destruction sort of a thing that you can use to manifest and multiply your wealth. Whereas if you're an older person, your incentives are different. You've already made your money. You've already lived most of your working years. You don't really care about that so much. So that's a different story entirely. So I think it just comes down to, at the end of the day, what are the human incentives that are being created? And I believe that crypto evolved out of the human incentive that people want to keep what they earn, that people want a certain amount of freedom and anonymity when they transact with their wealth. and that government should not be involved. And over the last few years, you've seen this idea sort of manifest itself deeper and deeper in younger and younger people because they see the controls and constraints that they have to live under existing government systems, laws, legalities, and all the hoops and bullshit that you have to jump through if you want to start a business or if you want to, climb the social ladder in terms of income. So I think the incentive is there for crypto to continue to be adopted. There's definitely an incentive there for the royalties market, like what we're creating, artwork market, copyright market is going to be completely replaced. Trademark market's going to be completely replaced. It makes government agencies irrelevant and useless because now you can have this stuff on chain and you can know for sure who created it first because everything is time stamped in cryptography. So, I mean, there's a lot of markets that are going to be disrupted, but the old guard is going to have to die off, before we reach mass adoption. And that's why I say we're so early. Your only job really is to not get shaken out of the market when things get rough. So yeah, if there's a dip, buy it. If you're part of a good project, hold it. Because as we go into the S curve of adoption, the money is made by the people who risked everything on the bottom level. And we haven't even gotten off the bottom floor yet. So that's kind of my hot take on that. Where do you see it going?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, and I definitely have to say that, we keep repeating it over and over again, but, telling people that we are still so early. Many people have been going through so many emotions over the last couple of years that they feel like, and even I do that sometimes as well, like having the feeling that I've been in the crypto markets for an eternity already, but if you look at the big picture and if you see like when Bitcoin was created, the OG coin, and then you look at all the other coins, like, and then you look at how far we are already, but like where we are going to go in the future, like the adoption is moving so fast. Where are we going to be in 10 years from now? And as you mentioned, like it's like such a big opportunity for everyone right now. People need to capture it. Um, and yeah, we try to bring in as many good people as possible, and yet try to convince everyone that there are still NFT projects out there, who actually want to build and like have a sustainable business in the end. And talking about NFTs, I mean, we still have to jump into the Goodfellas project. Our little baby is actually having its birthday in like 4 days. It's 4 or 3? 3 days actually on Monday. And I know you have put a lot of work into the creation of the next batch. We actually got Yvette, who created 3 backgrounds for us. Like initially, we actually thought that we are going to select 2 of these and implement them into the batch. But as we have seen them and we've seen how good they work with the collection, we decided to keep all 3. So yeah, tell us a little bit about the work. I think the batch is like fully completed, right?
Not quite. I'm still working on a hand trait and a one of one, but for the most part, it's complete. I did up to this point basically created from scratch and by hand 30 individual pieces that I think make great combinations. And what I'm finding at this point is because we've evolved the artwork to this place where we've gotten so many new traits, whether they're hand traits or clothing or now backgrounds, that most of the NFTs that originally generated, I'm basically going back and having to update them by hand, which I don't mind doing because I feel like at the end of the day we get a better product. There's nothing I hate more than a generative PFP collection that when you pick up a piece or you mint a piece, it's just disappointing when you look at it. Like nothing matches and the combinations look really strange, and it just kind of turns me off. And so when we're providing, value to the community in terms of quality, like the first thing I look at is I look at the entire drop and I start pulling pieces out that I think look like shit. I'm like, I wouldn't want to own that. I know no one's going to want to own that. And then I basically separate them out. And then from that place, I'll take that collection of pieces that I feel like need to be altered or changed, and then I literally go through and rebuild every single one of them by hand, which means all of the JSON files and data has to be rebuilt by hand. So it takes a long time when you actually do this right and you care about the outcomes. But I feel like if we're going to say that one of our values is putting high quality art into the holders or into the hands of high quality holders, then that's one of the steps that we have to jump through. So there's going to be, this is batch 7, we'll have 8 and 9, and then we'll have one batch where we reveal faces. So there's really only 4 total batches, 3 after this one, really 2 after this one, because the face batch is a batch that we owe to all of the boss holders already anyway. So that'll be a drop that comes to everyone, and that's on us. That was one of the promises that we decided to fulfill. So there's really only 3 more mintable drops, 2 after this one, and then we'll go into the second era of the artwork where basically everything is going to be touched, even if it's just going back through all the art and making sure everything is cohesive and updating, like shadowing and cleaning up line work and that sort of thing, like really, really making it pristine and beautiful, so that if you wanted to put like a huge mural or work on your ceiling or your wall, that you'd be proud to do that. Or if you wanted to print it out or put it on a shirt, you would be proud to do that. So yeah, so that's kind of where that's at. And this one hand trait that that I'm working on has been a really challenging one because it requires a lot of shading and paint work. And I'm almost done with that. And hopefully I can finish it and the one of one today. And then once that's done, I can go ahead and put all the data together. But we've got Yvette's backgrounds queued up and ready to rock. I've got, I think, 17, 18 pieces that have brand new backgrounds. And I may introduce a stark white background as well, just because I think it looks amazing against some of the really detailed and like textured art that we have. I don't know if a lot of people have actually blown this artwork up and actually looked at it, but there's a ton of texture in it, a ton of shading work. And in the pieces that I like the most, they have the most realism because of that. And so it's only when you blow them up and you look at them closely that you can actually see it. So anytime that we're modifying or adding pieces, I want to make sure that we honor that and match it with as much consistency and honor it as much as we possibly can. And so, yeah, these batches take a very, very long time. And I understand why other projects don't do what we're doing, because it is a lot of extra work. It's so much easier just to drop 1,000 pieces or 10,000 pieces and hope for the best and then wash your hands of it and walk away. But that's, not something that's ever been an option in terms of what we want to create. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. Hopefully I can finalize those last 2 pieces today. And then, of course, we'll be ready for the drop on Monday. So we got a lot of communication that we need to get into the marketplace, probably more on your end. You're going to have to actually promote a lot, getting ready for the weekend. And then I'll be doing data and artwork, and we'll be ready to rock. Hopefully we're live again on Spaces on Monday. I believe that's the plan, yeah?
Yeah, we'll definitely try to do it. I mean, I always loved when we were live for Artist Incubator drops on Fridays. But I just wanted to add another thing that you just actually talked about. Um, you just said that you created 30 pieces by hand, like everything was basically hand touched and then chosen, like trying to find good combinations and everything. And it's crazy because you shared the folder with the 30 pieces this morning. And like I love all the traits we have, but if you like look at the hair traits, for example, if I had to rank them, I definitely have like one or two, like I think they are definitely cool, but they would probably be like compared to the other ones, my least favorites. So when I checked the 30 pieces, there was actually one with that hair trait that instantly became my absolute favorite of all the 30 pieces because the combination looked so good. It like I saw it and I felt like, man, that fits perfectly. And that's so interesting because you just said that the exact same thing that you mentioned, like some people just, press generate 10,000 pieces, of all the trades we have, and then sometimes like the outcome is not good. Like you feel like, okay, that doesn't really fit together. And yeah, I just wanted to give you some appreciation for the work you put in, because I feel like it's very important, especially if you want like every single piece to be good. And yeah, shout outs to you for that, definitely. And I hope that we will be live on Monday. Yeah, we can do that, definitely. If we plan it, we can do it. We will be live at the same time. I think 5 p.m. UTC should work out. We will do that instead of the podcast episode on this day. And we hope to see most of you guys joining us. I mean, it's another great possibility to keep building your family. And as Jason just mentioned, like it's going to be one of the last batches in this era, and then there will be a definitely like a recognizable change. And yeah, I think we are good for today. Do you have anything else, or can we say goodbye to the
Yeah, no,
people?
I don't want to keep everyone. I know it's Friday and everybody's got shit to do, myself included. But yeah, I would just encourage people to, like look across the marketplace. If you're listening and if you're even hearing this in a recording, I've started jumping into a lot of different spaces, and I hear a lot of the same frustrations. But what I don't see is I don't see a lot of people making behavioral changes. They just come up, they just show up and bitch, which to me makes no sense, right? Everybody wants a project that is committed, long term, can actually be exclusive, can actually produce quality work, and really focus on building something for the long term. And when we're out here on Twitter, to whatever extent we can be, and we're promoting, the best thing that we can do to help the NFT market or bring other people into the space is to bring them into our universe. So if there's people in your circle that you feel like would be a good fit, that are, good quality collectors and holders, invite them in, connect me with them or connect Alex with them, and, we'll have a chat, maybe get them a mint pass. But, I really see that as the mission right now as we, start growing. We started doing a little bit of direct response marketing with forums, and we're going to start doing some ad work in the very near future to support that as well. But the best advertising is always people talking good about you. And so one of the things that Alex and I really focus heavily on is, when you guys show up and you need something or you want something or you have some, complaint or suggestion, where we want to satisfy that and make sure that we're, providing value to the best of our ability. So spread that, help us spread that word to the best of your ability to the people in your circles, and introduce them to us. If there's spaces that you want me to show up on or Alex to show up on, be sure and let us know. I've been out there carrying the flag in a lot of different spaces. I was on a great one last week that I thought was, it was actually really surprising because there was a lot of traditional Solana projects in there, and they're all complaining about the same thing. You know, the holders are not minting. The holders are dumping on, each other. They don't really care about the project. It's all the same shit. And then they wonder why they have these complaints. And then they don't put two and two together and realize that they created that by the community that they created in the first place. The reason we don't sell to everyone immediately is because we don't want that. And so the growth is going to be slower, but it's also going to be more consistent and measured over time. And we're going to have less of this bullshit entering into the community. And so the message that I'm putting out to all of the founders that they need to stop this crap where they think that minting out is some sort of magic pill. Minting out should never be the goal. The goal should be to find good people and put what they want in their hands. Otherwise, they're not going to care. And the other thing too is you got to have a value system. And on this last call, man, it was amazing to hear people talk about all of these things that they want to do and all of these things that they want to create. But then when it came time to mint, they weren't willing to stand in the fire of their values. So it's dropping prices, it's liquidating stuff, it's giving shit away for free. And basically all they're saying is we don't really value our artwork or our IP, and we can't really sell it, and we're not going to try to, so we're just going to dump it on the marketplace, which of course creates no loyalty, It creates nothing in terms of consistency of value creation. And it shows people you're not really committed and you don't have a spine. And so in this particular call, I saw more and more people understanding this, which I thought was a massive shift in the mentality that I've seen. And I think a lot of this is just coming from the fact that more and more people are realizing that the old hype and horseshit ways don't work. And if they want to be successful, they actually have to find ways to make their stuff more exclusive, find quality holders, and learn how to actually present and position themselves well. So these are all the things that are on my mind as I'm going through the marketplace. And of course, anyone within earshot of my voice that's vibing on that and understands that, help us find these people because they're out there and they're looking for good projects. And it means more when it comes from someone that they know than from someone that they don't. So connect me with them, connect Alex with them. You know, if someone has questions, I'm happy to answer them and have, real world conversations with them. But let's just continue to find the good people in the marketplace and bring them in. They're out there, they're looking for us. And unfortunately, the way the world works is we have limited reach, but we're going to continue to do everything that we can to expand that. So with that said, I think I'll just wish everyone a happy Friday and say thanks for being here. Really appreciate every single one of you guys. And I'm stoked to drop some artwork on Monday. So Alex, over to you, brother.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that people can re-listen to the space that you just mentioned. I think you posted it on Discord, and yeah, talking about Discord, go ahead and look at the sneak peek Jason just posted. It's like the first background that Yvette created, so take a look at it. I hope you guys like it. Leave some feedback, and hope to see you guys on Monday. Bye bye.